Hey yo, what's up fam? It's your boy Dice, aka DICEM, Dicem Slasher, and of course I don't own these clips, but here we go. We got Jason versus the Feral Predator. Without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can see, of course, the Feral Predator is extremely lethal, as I say about many of the different Yautja from Yautja Prime, and even some of the Bad Bloods that were exiled from Yautja Prime. We do know, or at least it's most likely, that the Feral Predator follows the honor code. So he is not a bad blood. He could be some kind of young blood, but based on his skill level, I'd say he's not. Now here's the thing. There's cultural significance in the subspecies of Yautja, the Feral Predators, with bone. They love bone. They use bone as their biohelmets in some cases, such as the Feral Predator seen in Prey. They have more teeth and a stronger bone-crushing bite force. They're very, very aggressive, very skilled, and very powerful. They may not be technically as large from what we can understand as far as height and build goes, but they are extremely powerful and intelligent. Now you got Jason. Now, when looking at Jason Voorhees, you gotta notice that there's different versions, starting with the original in Part 2, going all the way up to the modern day films, or most recent films. So of course, Jason was once more human-like, regardless of if you want to debate if he was or wasn't. He was much more humanoid and seemed like a living, breathing being, though almost impossible to kill. But around the time of Part 4, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, we start to see a more zombified, wild Jason, where he's been living in the woods, surviving as a wild man, basically undead. And here's the thing. He's even harder to kill this time around, and then we get to Part 6 where he appears again, and now he's completely zombified, completely undead. Nothing is stopping him, basically. He can take a shotgun blast directly to the chest, and it doesn't even faze him. He pretends it does, but then gets right back up. He's super powerful, and going from that point forward, he's just a beast, a monster. He was already slaughtering people, he was already disembodying, dismantling, disemboweling people, but now he's on a whole different level. And you know, you go from 6, 7 to 8, which I didn't care for the design of him in 8, but the design doesn't really matter here. The point is that Jason was extremely powerful, and he kept getting more and more zombified and more extremely strong. Now this is of course just a mask, a representation of Jason's face in Jason Goes to Hell, since his face wasn't exactly fully revealed in the film, since the hockey mask was kind of melted onto his face, and in Jason X we get yet another look, and so on and so forth. But by the time Freddy vs. Jason rolls around, Jason is completely zombified, decaying, and he's the strongest he's ever been. Friday the 13th was always great as a series, but Freddy vs. Jason, in my opinion, was kind of like the pinnacle of Jason. At that point, he was a monster. And here's the thing. There's many different ideas for concepts and designs of what he could have looked like and what he would look like at this point, but without further ado, let's get into the fight. So at this point, the Feral Predator breaks his combi stick into 2 halves and wails one of them directly at Jason. He catches it right in front of his skull and then whips it back at him. And of course, it impales the Feral Predator in the upper part of his chest on the left side. And then he starts charging towards Jason. He leaps through the air, coming down, stabbing through his chest with the combi stick, the other half of it, as Jason then stabs the Feral Predator directly through his ribs, straight through his body, with the machete piercing through the back of his body as he goes to slash even further down as the Feral Predator pulls back, pulling the blade out, and then he punches Jason in the face, extracts his wrist blades, and goes to swing for his throat. Jason dodges this attack and then slashes the Feral Predator's chest open. The Feral Predator uppercuts Jason so hard he flies back, hitting the wall and sliding down to the ground, as then the Feral Predator runs up and impales his wrist blades into his chest. Jason swings the machete, he dodges it, he impales the blades over and over and over through his chest before he tears the blades up sideways through his chest, going from his ribs all the way through his chest. He pulls them out. Jason goes to slash the machete straight down through his skull as he backs up and kicks Jason in the face, cracking his hockey mask. He then stabs him through the throat with his wrist blades. Jason goes to swing the machete at him. He slashes it with his wrist blades, causing it to fly away, sticking in the ground. Jason grips the feral predator up by his throat as the feral predator grips his throat up and stabs him through the side of his skull, tearing the blades through his head, killing him instantly. Winner, feral predator, DICEM, I'm outie.